AI is changing everything, right? It's totally revolutionizing how we do business. But it's also bringing in some really complex risks. So, how do you get a handle on it? Well, today we're going to look at the two biggest roadmaps out there for responsible AI: the global standard, ISO 42001, and the super flexible guide from NIST. The big question is, are they fighting each other, or is there a much smarter way to look at them?
This right here is the question that's keeping leaders up at night. AI is getting woven into the very fabric of business. We're talking operations, customer service, you name it. We absolutely need some guardrails, some kind of structure. But where in the world do you even begin? Let's break down the two main options you've got. So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the challenge of AI governance itself. Then, we'll take a close look at ISO 42001, and after that, the NIST framework. Then, we'll put them side by side to really see how they're different, and we'll finish up with what I think is the most important part: how they can actually work together.
Okay, first up, the AI governance challenge. Before we can even talk about the solutions, we have to really understand the problem they're trying to solve. And this isn't some far-off, futuristic thing. This is an urgent, right-now kind of need for a clear roadmap. Think about it. Without some kind of structured way to manage AI, organizations are basically flying blind, and that exposes them to some serious legal and reputational risks. This is exactly the gap that frameworks like ISO 42001 and the NIST AI RMF were built to fill. They're like the first real guidebooks for this brand new territory.
All right, let's explore that first roadmap, ISO 42001. A good way to think about this one is as the formal global standard, the official path you take for international compliance.
So, ISO 42001 is a huge deal, mainly because it's the very first international standard of its kind. It basically gives organizations a blueprint for building something called an AI management system, or AIMS. Just think of it as the complete official rulebook for how a company governs all of its AI, from top to bottom.
Now, probably the biggest feature of ISO 42001 is that it's certifiable. This is so important. It means a company can actually hire an independent auditor to come in, check their AI governance, and give them an official stamp of approval. And if you're a global company, that certification is a super powerful way to tell your customers, your partners, your regulators, hey, we're doing this right.
And now for our second path, the NIST AI RMF. So if ISO is the formal rulebook, you should think of NIST as the flexible, practical field guide. This is the path of adaptive risk management. Right off the bat, you can see a huge difference just in the wording. NIST's framework is a voluntary guide. See? It's not a standard you get certified against. It comes from the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, and really, its main goal is just to give organizations the tools to think critically about their own unique AI risks.
The heart of the NIST framework is this really practical four-step cycle. You start with govern, building the right culture. From there, you map out your AI systems to spot the risks. Then you measure those risks to understand them. And finally, you manage them. And this isn't a one-and-done kind of checklist. It's a continuous loop that you're meant to run over and over again.
Okay, so we've looked at the two paths. Now let's really put them side by side. Because even though they might seem really different on the surface, they're both trying to get to the exact same destination: trustworthy AI. The absolute core difference boils down to this. ISO is a formal standard. It has specific requirements, and you can be audited and certified. NIST, on the other hand, is a voluntary guide. It's all about being flexible and adapting its ideas to your specific needs. So one is a benchmark you have to meet, the other is a process you adopt.
Let's break that down just a little bit more. So in terms of their nature, it's formal standard versus voluntary guide. That directly leads to certifiability. ISO has it, NIST doesn't. And scope? Well, ISO was built from the ground up to be global, while NIST is technically US-focused, though honestly, its principles are useful anywhere. And finally, their focus is different. ISO is about building an entire management system, while NIST really zeroes in on the risk management process itself.
But let's not get too hung up on the differences, because this is the common ground, and it is massive. Both of these frameworks, at their core, are trying to do the exact same thing: make sure that as we innovate with AI, we're doing it in a way that is responsible, ethical, and trustworthy. And that brings us to our last, and I think most important point. Even though we've been framing this as ISO versus NIST, the real story here is that they are complementary, not competing.
The smartest move isn't picking one over the other, it's learning how to use the map and the compass at the same time.
This is the key takeaway, really. It's not an either-or decision. When you view them as competitors, you're creating a false choice. The most effective organizations are already moving past that debate. They're asking a better question, which is, how can we use the strengths of both?
And here's what that actually looks like. You can use the super flexible NIST framework as your internal engine, your day-to-day guide for finding and managing risks. And then you can wrap that really strong internal process inside an ISO 42001 compliant management system and go get that external global certification. It's truly the best of both worlds, a solid internal process and a powerful external signal of trust.
So we'll leave you with this question to think about. When it comes to your organization's AI governance, are you looking for a guide to help you find your way, or are you looking for a standard to prove you've arrived? Because as we've just seen, the best, most robust answer might just be that you need both to navigate the future of AI safely and successfully.